Check, check, check.
Check. One.
Something in OBS.
Check one. Check one.
Sounds good now. We got it. I said I haven't heard any sound yet. There's no babies in there.
Let me put it right there.
You're right.
So where could this audio be coming from?
There is a baby in here. I just heard there is a baby in there.
Honorable Frank Allman presiding.
This is a happy occasion. Y'all should be making some noise already. Come on now. That never changes.
Reynolds. Yes, perfect. All right, you can just walk over here. You're welcome.
All right, everyone, please be seated. I am sorry we got started just a few minutes late, but as you can see, I had kind of a big crowd to corral back there. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Frank Allman. It is my honor to serve as the Chief Judge in the Second Judicial Circuit. I want to thank all of you very much for being here this afternoon to acknowledge the service of now retired County Judge Augustus D. Aikens, Jr. At the conclusion of the ceremony, I hope all of you can join us outside in front of the courthouse for the dedication and renaming of the county courthouse in honor of Judge Aikens. If you need any assistance locating elevators or other facilities, look for the folks with either the blue ribbons or blue roses on their lapels. That's court staff, and they'll be happy to help you find whatever it is that you need. I want to make just a few acknowledgments. As you can see, we have quite a few judges here. I'm not going to mention all of their names, but we have judges from across the state, both circuit and county judges from the Second Judicial Circuit, and those who have traveled several hours to be here to honor their colleague. So we're very grateful for all of you who made that trip. We also have other dignitaries. I'm not going to name them all, but I am going to ask if you are an elected official, whether a state, county, or otherwise, would you please stand and just give us a wave? There's Jessica Uri, the public defender. All right. Thank you very much for being here. Members of the clergy, I think we have a few of you. Would you please stand, please? All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. We have many friends of Gus Aikens. I'm sure we might see the whole room stand up. So, friends of Judge Aikens, thank you all for being here. And of course, the family of Judge Aikens, last but not least, thank you so much for being here. We are honored by your presence. At this time, I would take just a moment of personal privilege to thank the now former chair of the Leon County Commission, Carolyn Cummings, and the entire Leon County Commission for supporting the renaming and dedication of the courthouse in honor of Judge Aikens. Carolyn Cummings, would you please stand and just be recognized? We are so fortunate to have the county commission that we have. I also just want to briefly acknowledge Vince Long, the county administrator, Chastity Osteen, the county attorney, and all of the county staff who work so hard to make this happen. We do have an ambitious program today of remarks and presentations, which is only fitting given the depth and breadth of Judge Aikens' service to the legal profession, the judiciary, his community, and his country. So while I'm tempted to sit up here and say a lot more about Judge Aikens, I'm confident that the other speakers will cover that and do a wonderful job. So we are going to begin with the program. It is my pleasure to ask Bishop Adam J. Richardson of Bethel AME Church to come in and lead us in the invocation. Bishop.
And I'm a has-been. Chief Judge, honorable judges, Judge Aikens, brothers and sisters all, more than 28 years ago, I asked Brother Aikens at the time to serve as the campaign manager for my aspiration to become a bishop in the AME church. Now I'm retired after 28 years, and I salute you, sir, and your family for all that you have done, all that you've contributed to the nation and to our great county, and for the achievement, the recognition that your name will be across the face of this building. Congratulations, sir. It's an interesting thing when people get this kind of fame while they're still living. Congratulations. Let us pray. Holy God, you are great and mighty. We esteem you. We laud and magnify your name. We give you praise. And we thank you for all things good and true and noble and right. Thank you for your love and kindness. We thank you for all the ways that you have blessed us and for the occasion that brings us together. We invoke now your presence. We thank you for the life and the living and the service of the man we honor here today in retirement, Judge Augustus D. Aikens. Thank you for his dear family and all those who've surrounded him with support and love and care. We pray, oh God, that his next part of his life will be extraordinary, as you'll crown him with good health and long life. Bless each of us in ways that we stand in need. We pray for our nation. We pray for our state. We pray for this county and city. And to you we give glory, honor, and praise. In your great name we ask it all. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bishop. Thank you very much. Now I have the pleasure of introducing the Honorable Louis Schiff, Broward County Judge from the 17th Judicial Circuit. Judge Schiff. Thank you.
Chief Judge, my dear colleague Gus, my friends on the bench and the family and friends in the community, I'm just honored and humbled to be able to do this. A number of years ago, I started participating in the county conference with Gus when we were rookie judges back in the 1990s. And we both grew together, and he served as president and I served as president. And we have many past presidents here of our conference. And one of the tasks that I do every year is present a program called County Judges With Air. And it's a surprise. And Gus had no idea. And I worked with Gus's JA and I worked with Gus's granddaughter to put a program together to surprise him in front of 300 county judges and honor him. And so Gus called me about 6 months ago and said, would you do that program at my retirement? So Gus, I'm going to do the program for you at the retirement, but there may be a surprise or two that you don't know about. Because you know me, Gus, they told me you were walking in the building before we had to do a quicker sound check. So here we go, folks. This is the emblem for the County Judges Conference. And today, we have a special edition of County Court Judges Were There, which talks about Gus and his marvelous career. So here we go, folks. This is a story about a county court judge who defines what community and service and justice is about. Martin Luther King said that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. So this is a story about a man who loves his family, he loves his friends, he loves his church, he loves his community, and he teaches the law, and has been able to combine all those passions to help others, not only on the bench, but off the bench. And this is a story about a county court judge who is ethical, moral, and has shown others the value of an education. He's led by his example, and he gives others credit for job well done. And this is the story of a humble man who is a humanitarian, a decorated veteran, and has garnered awards for his work on and off the bench, but has never sought the spotlight of such awards. So we're going to begin our story only about 66 miles from here, because Gus's journey goes 66 miles, and here he is in Tallahassee, and he's never lost those roots. So it was mid-November in the late 1940s, and the Gators were about to play the Hurricanes for the mythical state championship. FSU was having a better season than they're having now. And Florida A&M was playing good ball. Right here in Tallahassee, you can go over to the local Piggly Wiggly and buy bacon for 49 cents a pound, or get a GE washer for $5 down. And if you were ambitious and you wanted to go to the movies, you can go over to the FSU Circus, and you can either watch John Wayne or Bob Hope with Lucille Ball for about 25 cents. And if you wanted to travel in and out of Tallahassee at that time, you could take a Greyhound bus. At the time, Plessy versus Ferguson was the law of the land. But let's take you to Brooks County Hospital in Quinton, Georgia, because that's where it all began for Gus. So on November 18th, as you all know, 1949, Gus was born. He was the second of 5 children. His dad was a farmer, and his mom was an elementary school teacher. His parents showed him love and taught him the importance of the golden rule, family and church, and it'll be available to everybody. That is the actual census that was taken just a month or two after Gus was born in 1950. Gus attended the Madison County Training School, and then he went off to high school and graduated in the class of 1967. Here's his senior picture right there in the center. There he is. Hasn't changed a bit. But you probably don't know this about Gus. He was he and his brother were 2-sport lettermen. They for football and for baseball. You were wondering how I was going to get a baseball reference in, but I'm doing it through Gus. Not only was he a 2-sport letterman, but he controlled the media even back in those days, because he was the sports editor. And over the years, this is a class reunion of his classmates. So we're going to talk this afternoon a little bit about Gus. And this day is just devoted to you. It's devoted to your family and all the great things that you've done for everyone else. So we're going to get Gus to college now. And it was 1968, and he was a graduate of the North Florida Junior College, and he was already making a name for himself because he was who's who. And then he went off to FSU. This hurts, I'm a Gator, but okay. So Gus is a triple Seminole. But I want you to hear this next thing, because this is who Gus is. This is a story that I'm going to play that Gus recorded many, many years ago about what happened when he got to FSU and he had to find housing.
I started attending Florida State University in January of 1969. I transferred from a junior college, and that was the very beginning of my career here at Florida State University. And the memory that stands out the most in my mind is when I came over in January 1969, the very first thing I had to do was to find housing. And I recall going into the housing office, and there were a list of names of individuals who had properties for rent. It was important for me to find a room rather than an apartment for monetary reasons. And we got, my mom came with me, we got the list of places that were available. And the very first thing that I recall is I went to this house in the community, which had a room for rent, and it was a nice area. And I knocked on the door, and this lady answered the door. And she looked at me, and she was startled for about 30 seconds and confused, that she never said a word. She just kind of looked. And then all of a sudden she said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "I'm inquiring about the room that's for rent, was over the housing office." And she said, after thinking for a moment, it's not available. So I went back to the housing office, and they suggested that I contact the Southern Scholarship and Research Foundation, which had rooms and spaces available for students. And I ended up obtaining housing and a scholarship through the Southern Scholarship and Research Foundation. And that turned out to be a very good thing for me, because I lived in a house adjacent to campus with other students, and I made some very good friends, and it was convenient to campus, but it turned out to be a very positive thing for me.
That's good. That it started off as a not so positive thing. And
Well, I found that the university was a lot more progressive in 1969 than the rest of the community, and the university was more willing to make changes at that time than the community itself. And the Southern Scholarship and Research Foundation, and being adjacent to the campus, and the friends I made the learning environment very, very positive.
So, Gus is coming up on his 50th anniversary as a member of the bar, and while he was practicing law, he was an AV-rated attorney. So dedicated to the community he was that in 1976, and this is from the Tallahassee Democrat, he decided to open up a law practice in Frenchtown, and I'm using his words and how he was quoted, because, quote, I wanted to identify with the black community. After practicing law, he became involved in governmental work, first as an assistant general counsel. And Gus, as you all know, he never seeks headlines. He just does his job. He's always been that way, and the headlines have always found him because of the outstanding work that he's done. He served as an assistant general counsel. He was the general counsel for the state of Florida Department of Administration. He was the chief of benefits and legal services, again, making headlines for decisions that had to be made for the good of the people of the state of Florida. And he was the chief legal counsel for the state of Florida. You say to yourself, well, that's enough work for one person to do in a lifetime. And if that, and he did 10 lifetimes of work there, but that wasn't all that he did.
First to fight for the right and to build a nation might, and the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along.
So I'm going to introduce you to Brigadier General Edward Merrigan, who is a circuit judge in Broward County who served with Gus, who couldn't be here today, who's going to say a few words.
Hello, I'm Brigadier General Ed Merrigan. I'm also Circuit Court Judge Ed Merrigan in Broward County. I want to thank you for letting me appear by video to talk a little bit about Judge Gus Aikens. I've known Judge Aikens, or Gus Aikens, since about 1994. We were both officers in the Florida Army National Guard, and I was able to serve with Gus and see firsthand what an incredible individual he was. Not only was he a great officer, but he was a great person. At the time I had met him, he was already a combat veteran from the first Gulf War. He had been decorated with a Bronze Star. So I really got to meet Gus, see Gus in action, and enjoy his company. Also, at the same time, I was an attorney in the state of Florida, and I got to appear in front of County Court Judge Gus Aikens in Leon County. Fast forward a couple of years, and I was able to join Gus on the bench as a County Court Judge in Broward County, Florida. Gus, congratulations for all your dedicated and hard work to our country and to the state of Florida. All the best to you. Good luck and Godspeed.
That was the Brigadier General's phone that went off. I'm going to go through this a little bit quickly because you all know of his great work, and there's other speakers that are going to come up. But for 30 years, he served our country. And here are some of the accolades in those 30 years. We'll go through them. He was a decorated veteran, Bronze Star Medal, Legion of Merit Medal, Florida Cross Medal. And there he is as Colonel. With family, a hero returns. And so That's his military career. And it's not just, it's 20 years in service to our country. And if that person was only one person, you would say that's incredible. You would think that's 5 different people. So we've got Gus as like 10 or 15 different people. But then Gus decides that it's time to try to serve my country and my county and my state in a different way. So he applies to become a judge. And Governor Lawton Childs appointed him in 1998, one of the last appointments that the governor made. And he then was challenged in 2000, and he won, but he never got challenged again. And so his family worked hard and got him elected for the first and only time that he had to get elected, or in that time, they couldn't call it re-election, they just had to say he's being elected to retain. But always wanting to learn, Gus has traveled all over the country and learning with the National Judicial College to learn things. He's served as chair of the Canvas Board for 2+ decades. He's received headlines based upon his rulings that have shaped law, not only here in Leon County, but throughout the state of Florida. Now, if you think that's a lot of work, it is, but he's also was the assistant coach for the FSU mock trial team. And many of you already know this, but Gus started the Veterans Court here in Tallahassee, and it's something that was close to his heart. And again, if that was enough, but it wasn't, because not only was he assisting the men and women who served our country, Gus said, it's not enough for me to just assist men and women who have served. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mentor ROTC students as well. So he did that. And then after the pandemic, he and others, Judge and others, wrote a letter to the citizens of Leon County, thanking them for helping them get through the pandemic. And now I have another surprise for you, Gus, because this wasn't on the original PowerPoint.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Frank Allman. I'm the Chief Judge here in the 2nd Judicial Circuit. I wanted to take a moment to congratulate my friend Gus Aikens on his retirement and to thank him for his 27 years of service as Leon County Judge. What we hope for most in our fellow judges is that they be good colleagues, people that we can go to ask questions, people that we can go to for advice, and sometimes people who will just sit and listen to us and say nothing at all. Gus, you have been an exemplary colleague to all of the judges here in the 2nd Judicial Circuit. We really value your service and your mentorship. You deserve a long and happy retirement, and that is the wish of all your colleagues for you. Congratulations again. Job well done.
Can I please have Gus and the family just stand so you can see his support that Gus has? LeGrand. That's just incredible. So Gus has 5 kids and like 17 grandchildren. I don't know how you had time for a family, Gus, with all the other stuff that you were doing. And I'm going to run through some family photos. There we go. And I know we have some of our friends from our county conference. He officiated his granddaughter's wedding. Gus served as dean as the DUI program for more than a decade. He just wrapped up. He's trained literally every single county court judge in the state of Florida on DUI and traffic. His leadership in our county conference is legendary. He has been there all the way. He serves as president. He served as advisors. He's done so much. And then again here in Leon County, he has just done so many different things. And this is Gus being sworn in by then Chief Justice Labarga at the time. We have many of our, can I have the past presidents that are here from our conference stand just be recognized? There's a couple of us. There's 1, 2, 3. There's a few of us that came. Thank you. And then Gus and I and Dave Dinkin did one last teaching gig together because we were getting ready we did a teaching program on communications. And just a couple more things here. Recently, in this past March, he was given a Supreme Court award for his dedicated service and a proclamation. And this brings us kind of to the end of the era before he comes back as a senior judge. But this is now folks running for his seat, and this is Gus and the family finding out that the commission is going to approve the renaming of the building. But there's one person you haven't heard from, Gus, and I'm going to go ahead and play that now. He regrets the fact that he couldn't be here today, but he sent this along.
Judge Aikens, your career of service is a model for the rest of us to admire and follow. You've set a remarkable standard of excellence and personal integrity. Your legacy extends beyond the honor of your name on the courthouse. It reaches into the fabric of this community. On behalf of all my colleagues on the court, I want to thank you for everything you've done for the judicial branch and for the people of our state. Congratulations on your retirement, and God bless you.
So this was a story about a man who defines integrity, patriotism, work ethic, professionalism, and the independence of the highest standards. This was a story about a man who exemplifies those canons that we all strive to be as good, if not better, from. And that's because a county judge was there. Judge Gus Aikens. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge Schiff. That was wonderful. So now let's hear from the retired director of the Florida Retirement System, Andy McMillan. Not present? Oh. Come on up, sir. Judge Schiff, do you need your notes?
No, I can take them, sir.
Thank you.
I could say so many things here tonight, and I will. Gus, I never thought it'd come to this. Gus and I have known one another ever since he's been coming to Tallahassee, and I was coming from Mariana. And I can truly say, and there are a lot of employees here, Gus, who have worked with you before you joined the staff of Leon County. Your co-workers with the state of Florida all got the word on you. And they said, there's nobody like that. Nobody like that. But there is. There's so much I want to say because Gus impressed me when I was a young man too. And there was a time when I was a young man too. But a little something on a personal side, you know, we've had a virus going around the world and in our country. And I had that twice. And then I thought I had it a third time. But I had Lyme's disease. And I apologize. I want to take a moment and tell every one of you, look it up, find out about it. It will take you out. And I had been treated all this year for some sort of short-term memory. What it was Lyme disease. It had destroyed it. So I apologize for taking this time, but I know now as one individual how important it is for all of us to know more about Lyme's disease. I got that from a tick that got on me while I was quail hunting. And I don't know how long that tick had been on me when we found what the problem was. But getting back to why I'm here tonight, I wouldn't have missed it for anything. We're pretty close. More so than he wishes. But I could say so many things, and I will, that would describe Gus. But when I first saw him and met him and got to know him, I saw someone that was different. And so different that I wanted to know a lot more about him. And over the years, that happened. And Gus and I worked together in state government before he became judge of Leon County. He was our chief attorney for the Florida retirement system, and I was their director. And that put us together quite often. And he too knows a lot about me. I want you to join me in singing something here that's so appropriate, I think. I'll lead and you all sing. For he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow. And there was just mine, which nobody can deny. He's a jolly good fellow, he's a jolly good fellow. I love you, Gus.
Thank you very much, sir. We can now have Dr. Stanley Pearson from Internal Medicine and Cardiology.
To honorable judges, I'm Stan Pearson. I'm actually Gus's first cousin. We grew up together, and we had many of our early adventures together, both in school and on the farm and all. His dad and my mom are brother and sister. So our early days were spent, my grandmother babysat us, and my sister and two of his sisters and brother when we started, when my mom and his mom were teaching. So our grandmother, who was a teacher, babysat her 5 grandkids at the time. But at any rate, our further academic ventures started significantly in 1965, when we were part of a small group of people that integrated the Madison High School. And Judge Schiff mentioned that he played football. He didn't tell you that he played center. And at the time, back then, right down in Monticello was a defensive lineman named Jack Youngblood, who was an All-American at the University of Florida and subsequently a Pro Bowler for the Los Angeles Rams. So that was the competition that he at 161 pounds had to go against. So that took a lot of fortitude and a lot of guts. Fast forward, our careers sort of paralleled in the sense that we both ended up in the service business. I in medicine and he in the legal profession. And one of the things I think that will sum up what has guided our lives is a quote that I came across by Marion Wright Edelman, who chairs the Children's Defense Fund. And it said that service is the rent we pay for life. It is the very purpose for the life, and nothing else matters. So I think our family has always valued service, whether it be in our chosen professions or whether it be related to the community or related to church. And once we've had tragedies in our life, some unexpectedly. And as you know, may not know, Gus lost his brother about 12 years ago, I guess it was, suddenly. And the three of us were like that in terms of our pursuits of fairness and equity within our communities. His brother was a dentist and a lawyer. But his legacy lives, and we all keep going on and on and on. We work because it's what we do, and it's while this is his retirement, you can bet your butt he won't be retired, so to speak. So there'll always be something to do, always ladders to climb, and we hope that our legacies and his will live through his kids and their kids as we travel through this journey. And the final thing I'd like to say is in a world full of deceit and lies, telling the truth should not be an exception. And I think if we keep those things in mind as we travel, we will serve our communities and our world and keep it in a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pearson. So now I'd like to introduce the Honorable Jonathan Scherster, former Chief Judge of the Second Judicial Circuit.
Thank you so much, Chief Allman. May it please the court, may I be heard?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, I'm going to change things up a little bit. I'm not going to talk much about Gus Aikens today. That's because y'all are going to hear a lot about Judge Aikens. I'm going to explain why I'm not going to talk directly about him at the end of my little talk. Instead, I'm going to talk about some of the people who have supported him and all of the judges for the decades that he has served. Regina Lowe. Regina Lowe is there today. Thank you, Regina, for being with us. Sort of the gatekeeper of the county court, a person that we have relied on, that Gus has relied on for decades. Tanya Monk. These names are not going to mean a lot to a lot of the folks that are here, but for the court family, these names are going to mean a lot to us. Tanya Monk has served almost as long as Gus, keeping judges in courtrooms, mediating issues with coverage, senior judges, giving judges the cheerful news of what weekends they do first appearance in midnight warrants. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Paula Wright. Tanya's always cheerful senior partner. And Kendra Brown hiding over there behind Regina Lowe. Thank you, Kendra. Did she disappear on us?
No, she's there.
All right. Hi, Kendra. Brought us at least into the 19th century with the way that we address mentally ill people in the courts. And Brenda Mueller, who helped Gus invent Veterans Treatment Court in the Second Circuit. By the way, will say this about Gus. His last day on the bench, the last thing that he did was preside over the 33rd Veterans Treatment Court graduation. Every veteran who has graduated from our program has been graduated by a man who walked the walk, as you've heard. Kendra took a pitiful insult of a grant that we got for mental health court, used it to train law enforcement officers, establish our database, so that when a person with mental health history ends up in jail, we know it and they are not forgotten. She established relationships with psychologists so that even a person charged with a misdemeanor could see a psychologist within 48 hours. So we could make sure we could get people out of jail safely into treatment as quickly as possible. One word, Kendra, this is an extraordinarily inside joke. One word, Kendra, burgundy. If anybody other than Kendra laughs at that joke, they're lying. Linda Cunningham, Judy before her, all the court reporters making certain that we're accountable by the record to the appellate process, and with whom Gus saw the transition to a digital record during his career. Deborah Hargrave is fiercely loyal, reliable judicial assistant. Isaac Schuler, who didn't want to be here, and I insisted that he be here for just so I could torture him some more. I bet he didn't see that coming. Isaac is mostly used to absorbing the judge's stress when the technology doesn't quite go as the judge expected. Usually, Isaac would never say this, usually because of user error. I think back on everything that Isaac and Gus did together. Remember, Gus, when paperless files were controversial. Remember when e-warrants and video court were like flying cars, always only 5 years away. When every courtroom had to have a live stenographer. When we did first appearance at the jail through a mail slot in a bulletproof window. Fixing that was all Isaac and Isaac's team, 24/7 commitment so that the business of justice could be done for the people of this community, and with a budget that's an insult if there even was one. And Grant Sladen is here. We're clapping because we'd like to see you sooner than 3 years from now, Grant. Most of us were always wondering if we'd ever see Grant again, but we're so privileged. Grant, that was really the core of the team that you put together and that Elizabeth Garber has only strengthened. We are so honored by your presence with us today. Why do I talk about all of those people on Gus's day? Why not talk about Gus? There's lots that I could say. And you may have heard me say this before, but for me, the entire code of judicial conduct can be summarized in 4 words: diligence, competence, integrity, and humility. And for me, humility is our bedrock, our foundational value. The humility to accept our constraints and work toward justice within them. Augustus D. Aikens is the living embodiment of those values, and especially for me, the value of humility. And so I talk about others today because I expect that that's what Gus would do. Make certain that others got the credit. Judge Aikens, you are an inspiration. Thank you for giving us all this opportunity to acknowledge you.
Thank you very much, Judge Sherstrom. Now a former fraternity brother, Michael Beckham.
Well, I first of all am very, very honored to have been invited to this occasion by Gus. I'm probably going to forget these notes that I have and speak from my heart. Being here today makes me feel so inadequate and inferior. What a great man you are, Gus. I am so honored and so proud of what you have done for your community, your country, and for many, many others. First of all, my name is Michael Beckham. I'm from Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. And I have known Gus for 57 years. I met him in 1967 when we were both attending North Florida Junior College in Madison. I started a fraternity, which really was they called it a servers club because fraternities were not allowed on the campus. And under my, well, first of all, I became the president, self-elected. And the reason I started a fraternity was I just didn't look like I belonged with other fraternity members of the other clubs on campus. Under my leadership, I decided to open and invite black men into our membership. And we were the first fraternity to do that on campus. That is when and where I first met Augustus. There was something about him that drew me toward him. And I knew that he was destined for greater things in life. He had an aura about him that is difficult to explain. As all of you know, he honored his country in a military service and was decorated and then appointed to a judgeship by Governor Lawton Childs. When I graduated from North Florida Junior College, and Gus did, he went on to Florida State, and I went on to graduate from USMC, which is the United States Marine Corps. Thank you for your service. One thing that I was not going to mention, or there are actually two, was back in 1967, when I left Jacksonville, Florida, a pretty good-sized metropolis, and came to Madison, Florida, it was quite a culture shock. The blacks still had to go to be seated upstairs in the indoor movie. There were still water fountains that were designated for white or black. And I could go on and on. It was like going back to Gone with the Wind in 1867 instead of 1967. Those things troubled me. One day, I invited Gus to the house that I was staying in. There were four of the guys that lived there. The lady that owned the house, her name was Alice Williams. She was a traveler's insurance agent, and she smoked cigars. And I'm not talking about Tiparillos. They were about this big and this. So we lived there, and I invited Gus over to discuss, I think, some fraternity business, or it might have been to study. And he may or may not remember this. He came to the back door instead of the front door. And I answered the door. There was a doorbell for the front door, doorbell for the back door. And Gus was standing down those steps. And I said, "Come on in, Augustus." And he looked at me and he said, "No." And I said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Come on in." And he said, "That's not the way we do things around here." That it troubled me as well. This is a little bit on the light side. We had four, Henry, Usher, Robert Ground. I can't remember the other three or four members, but we had an initiation, and there was one that lasted a week long, which was called Hell Week. And then at the end of the Hell Week, we had Hell Night. And for some reason, our pledge captain and coat of arms decided we were going to run all the pledges through the woods blindfolded. Robert Roundtree. Robert Roundtree was about this tall and solid muscle. So we were running through the woods in the dark at 11:30 at night, blindfolded. The pledges were, we weren't. And he ran right into a pine tree, knocked him out cold. So we loaded him up, myself and a couple others, and went to the Madison Hospital, I think it was. And he had a concussion, and they called the police. And they were concerned because there were 4 white guys bringing a black man into the hospital for treatment. And they kept questioning us and also questioning Robert. Did these guys beat you up? That was not the case. But we did have some good times there, and I want to share with you my experiences with judges. I've been before judges 2 times in my life. One was pleasant. One was not so pleasant. The first encounter I had, I was 16 years old, and I was working at a hamburger joint called the Penny Burger, which my uncle owned. And one day I was running late for work, and I got stopped by a police officer for running a caution light. Not a red light, a caution light. So I was pulled over, I received a citation, and also I had to appear before a judge. My father was with me when we went to the judge for the hearing. I was dressed up in a coat and tie, very respectful, and as I always have been. He suspended my license for 30 days for driving through a caution light. I told the tough judge that I was employed at the time at the Penny Burger, and it was located 15 miles from my home, and that I would most likely get fired if I couldn't get to work. And he said, the nice judge said, I'll allow you to drive to work only, but if you're caught driving other places beside work, you better have a toothbrush because you'll go straight to jail. Fast forward 5 years later, my wife and I were standing before a judge, same judge. I won't repeat his name. Some of you may know him. But this time it was a more pleasant visit. We were adopting our first child, and the same judge was sitting for that wonderful occasion. After the paperwork was signed and documented, I went up to the nice judge and asked him if he remembered me. I said that he had suspended my license 5 years ago, and he looked at me like I was from the planet Plutron. Now, I want to tell you this. If I ever have to stand before a judge again, I would want it to be Augustus Aikens. Because I know from hearing what I heard today and his past performances that I would be respected, treated fairly, and judged accordingly. God bless you, Judge Aikens. I love you, Judge Aikens.
Thank you, Mr. Messer.
If I may, actually 2 things. One of them I stole, this is a gavel and a stand for it. Beautiful. And it says, presented to Judge Augustus Aikens with respect, affection, gratitude from your fraternal brother, that's me, and your brother in Christ. Another thing, I'm still working, not like some other people I know. So I had my employees make this up to Judge. And it's a money clip, and she'll have some and it's also a pennant for his lovely wife, so you don't have to spend any of his money. So just
Thank you so much. Can we have Colonel Timothy Kearns, the 400th Military Police?
Can you hear me okay? All right. It's my honor this afternoon to say a few words about Judge Aikens as part of this momentous occasion. Being recognized as the longest-serving judge in Leon County and having this courthouse named in his honor speaks volumes about his service to this community. Many of you here may know Judge Aikens from within the legal community, obviously. Today, I'd like to tell you about Gus Aikens, the soldier. I've known Gus since 1981, when he joined the 400th Military Police Prisoner of War Camp as a young lieutenant. The 400th was an Army Reserve command in Tallahassee, where I was serving as a major and the operations officer. One of his law school professors knew that Gus had gotten his commission, and he greased the skids for him to come into the 400th. Thank goodness he did. In 1988, I became the commander of the 400th, and Gus continued to advance in rank and support the various units and leadership roles. In late 1990, the 400th was activated, and in early 1991 was deployed to the Gulf War in Saudi Arabia. The 400th was a unit of over 150 men and women and was assigned to establish a prisoner of war camp. Soon after arriving, we were assigned 2 MP battalion headquarters and several MP companies. This added a considerable workload to our staff. During this time, Gus, now a major and a field grade officer, served as one of the headquarters senior staff officers, specifically the unit's intelligence officer. As a member of our staff in an active war zone, Gus was one of the most capable, reliable, and trustworthy officers that I have ever encountered in my 31 years of active and reserve service. During this time, having left his wife, young children, and a law practice, Gus served his country like a true soldier. As a result, he was awarded the Bronze Star Medal for Meritorious Service, which is only awarded during wartime. I'd like to read the commendation that accompanied his award. For meritorious service in support of military operations against a hostile force, Major Aikens displayed exemplary professionalism and initiative in the performance of duty. His significant contributions greatly enhanced the effectiveness of the United States in the Allied effort against a tenacious enemy. Despite many adversities associated with a combat environment. He served in a resolute manner. Major Aikens' loyalty, diligence, and selfless service are in keeping with the highest traditions of the military service and reflects utmost credit on him and the United States Army. After returning to Tallahassee, the 400th was inactivated, and Gus went on to continue his military career with the Florida National Guard. His career as a soldier culminated in his role as staff judge advocate to the Florida National Guard, and he ultimately retired as a colonel in 2003. Gus, upon his retirement, was awarded the Legion of Merit, which is awarded only to those individuals who have exhibited exceptional meritorious service throughout a long and distinguished career. In receiving this award, Gus was recognized for his leadership and exemplary foresight, as well as his high state of legal readiness in the provision of quality legal services to over 5,100 soldiers and their families during their deployments. I've considered Tallahassee my home for 63 years. I can think of no more fitting way to recognize Gus's service to this community in Leon County than to dedicate this courthouse in his honor. Judge Augustus D. Aikens, Jr. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. Thank you. Roger Messer, attorney at law.
May it please the court.
Yes, sir.
My name is Roger Messer. I'm a civil trial lawyer in the 19th Circuit down in St. Lucie County. But over 50 years ago, actually about 54 years ago, Gus Aikens and I lived about a half a mile down this hill on Macomb Street at Selby One Scholarship House. Gus was the only black man in the house. In fact, I was in the room before he was there, and they told me that we were getting some new people in the scholarship house, and that one of them was black, and how did I feel about having a black roommate? And, you know, I never had a close black friend before. And I said, why not? I had a little trepidation about that, and I'm sure he did too. And we met each other, and we started talking to each other, and it took me about an hour to figure out that Gus and I were almost exactly alike. We were both poor kids. We lived almost equidistant from Tallahassee, small towns. He lived to the east of here in Madison. I lived to the west of here in Chattahoochee. We both played football in high school. We both had steady girlfriends. We both had... Sorry about that. We both played football in high school. We both were college football fans. Gus had a cousin who was playing for Jake Gaither at A&M, and one year we went over to their homecoming game. We stepped out the front door at 216 South Macomb Street and took a right and walked about 2 miles up the long hill to A&M and Bragg Stadium and watched Jake and the boys beat up on Morris Brown. They were ahead about 28-0 at the half. And we watched the Marching 100 do their wonderful show, and we watched the whole program. And the game was pretty boring after that. We went home in the third quarter and rested up to go see Bill Peterson and the Seminoles that night play. But we did a lot of things together because we didn't have any money. We lived back then. I-10 wasn't complete, and it was a long way home. It was only about 50 miles in each direction, and we walked everywhere we went. But we became very close, very close. And both of us had jobs in addition to working through school. We were both good students. We both had a work-study program. We also had a little job on the side. I was in love with a beautiful young nurse, RN, who I'd met the year before when she was a nursing student at Florida State, a little older than me. But she was from Miami, and one of my side jobs was I was trying to save up money for an engagement ring. And I finally achieved that, and I went down and I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. Then I had a decision to make. Who was going to be my best man? And I had several white friends who volunteered, but I thought, the term best man has to go to the best man. And Gus Aikens was my best man. And the last time we spent the night together in a bedroom was on Calle Ocho in Miami the night before I got married. And he held up my courage, and he stood next to me in church when I made the commitment. And I'll tell you something, 54 years in March, I'll be married to the same pretty nurse. And Gus Aikens is still the best man that I know.
Thanks so much, Mr. Messer. Carolyn Cummings, Leon County Commissioner at Large. Also attorney at law.
Oh, may it please the court?
Yes, ma'am.
Chief Judge. Okay. I'm a little challenged, so I apologize. To our Chief Judge, all members of the judiciary, members of the clergy, family, friends, and especially to the Honorable Judge Aikens and his beautiful family. So good afternoon, everyone. I really feel privileged and honored to stand before you today as a member of the Leon County Board of County Commission, but also as a member of the Florida Bar as well. And it's just a great honor to be here to celebrate the retirement of an incredible individual. Over the years, Judge Aikens has been a friend, a mentor, and a role model for me. And he's been that for so many others in this community, as well as those in the legal profession. I have known Judge Aikens and his family personally and professionally for over 35 years. He hired me as a senior attorney when he was general counsel for a state agency, and I had the opportunity to work with him as well as with Mr. Andy McMillan, who was the director of the Division of Retirement at that time. But throughout my employment with Judge Aikens, he demonstrated extensive knowledge of the law, and his legal expertise was recognized and respected not only at that agency, but throughout state government. And I know Mr. McMillan can attest to that. But I have also come to know so many of Judge Aikens' positive attributes, including his high moral character, his strong work ethic, his compassion for service to others, and his sense of dignity, respect, and integrity for himself. Over the years, he has proven to be an honest man who cares deeply for his family, for his church, for his community, and for equal justice under the law. Judge Aikens dedicated his career to uphold justice and to ensure that fairness was there for everyone who entered his courtroom. And he gave everyone in his courtroom respect, fairness, and compassion. I believe his judicial work has strengthened our legal system in Leon County and abroad. And I know he has impacted the lives of many individuals and families across Leon County and beyond in a positive way. Judge Aikens, as I look at you today, you have left an indelible mark on Leon County by contributing to a more just and inclusive society. We thank you for your years of service, for your dedication to justice, and for your invaluable contributions to our community. You are wished all the best in your well-deserved retirement, and we look forward to the continued positive impact of your legacy on the judicial system and upon all of our lives. The renaming of this courthouse as the Judge Augustus D. Aikens Jr. Courthouse will occur later today. And I am very proud that the Leon County Board of County Commission unanimously agreed to honor your legacy in that manner. So again, on behalf of the Leon County Board of County Commission, entire Leon County, on behalf of our county administrator, Mr. Vincent Long, we all wish you the best in your retirement. May God continue to bless you and your family, and I know that he will. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Now, my pleasure to introduce the Honorable Melissa Disler, President of the Florida Conference of County Court Judges. She is a sitting Flagler County Judge in the 7th Judicial Circuit. Your Honor.
Thank you. So I too was honored to get a phone call from Judge Aikens several months ago asking to speak at his retirement ceremony. And it is also my honor to serve as the president of the Conference of County Court Judges. We have 342 county judges across the state of Florida. And as much as Judge Aikens has impacted your local community, he has impacted the entire state of Florida equally. So I will just take a moment to briefly highlight those things. Obviously, you've heard about his commitment to his faith and to his family. You've heard about his commitment to his country. You've heard about his commitment to his profession. So with respect to our county conference, obviously he's served for all of these years. He has been so involved in judicial education, so much so that my very first judicial education program that I attended, Judge Aikens was one of my instructors. And as intimidating as it may be to think of coming up here and speaking in front of all of you, imagine having to speak in front of a bunch of judges who want to ask you a bunch of questions and challenge you. That can be pretty intimidating as well. But Judge Aikens never wavered in his commitment to judicial education. That was his way of serving all of us sitting up here. He wanted to help us learn and teach us lessons that he learned. Teach us about the law, help us understand the best way to get to the just result. So we recognize him for that. He was our civil track leader for county judges for years. He was a member of the FCEC for years, which is the Florida Court Education Council. And he was also, as you saw one of the pictures, he was our associate dean for the traffic adjudication lab for about 12 years and just went through the last program less than a month ago. So with respect to our conference, like I said, all county judges are a member of our county conference automatically by virtue of becoming a judge, but Judge Aikens stepped up. He was our Second Circuit representative more than once. He was the secretary of our organization. He was the treasurer of our organization. He was the president-elect of our organization and then president of our organization. And I had the pleasure of serving as a committee chair when he was our president. And he expected excellence of each of us. He expected us to do the work. He led us with that humility that you've heard, with his quiet demeanor. But he was always there. He was always working. He was always available. And that is what your community knows, right? Because you've seen that for all those years. But just know that he made that same impact on a statewide level. So you heard Judge Schiff's county judges were their presentation. And I will tell you that when we do our county conference every year, that is always like the who's going to be honored this year, right? Everybody wants to know who's going to be honored. And when Lou tells you that he doesn't tell anybody, he doesn't tell anybody. He told me this year, I think because I was the incoming president and he wanted me to know. But otherwise, he doesn't tell but a handful of people. So it was such an honor to have Gus honored by Lou all those years ago, a few years ago. And so I asked Lou's permission. I said, do you mind if I take your presentation and turn it into a book? And Lou says, oh, well, I gave him the PowerPoint. I gave it to him in a little notebook. Oh, okay. Okay. So on behalf of the county conference, Judge Aikens, I would like to present you this shadow book that you can keep, on your table to remind you, for your family to know all these years that you were honored by our conference, the achievements, everything that you've done for each and every one of us sitting up here. Your legacy will live on. We appreciate you, and we are so blessed that we had you as part of our conference and our community. So we thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you so much, Judge. It's now my pleasure to invite Colonel Grant Slayton, retired trial court administrator for the Second Circuit and retired colonel from the Florida National Guard. Mr. Slayton.
May it please the court?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I just want to add, this is the first time I've been back to see you on the bench.
Your luck ran out, and I knew it was bound to happen.
No. It's the first time to see you on the bench as a chief judge, unanimously elected by your peers, and it fits you really well. So you look very chief judgy. Hello. I'm the former trial court administrator for the Second Judicial Circuit from 2001 to 2022. And I had the pleasure of working with Judge Aikens for 21 years. And he asked me to address you today because he spoke at my retirement ceremony. He offered me an opportunity at a rebuttal regarding his speech to me about a bull and some cows. But I'm going to go in a completely different direction. I was not sure what I wanted to talk to you about today. But I've been driving around the state of Florida for the last 9 days. I went to Judge Meg Steinbeck's retirement ceremony earlier in the week and down in Fort Myers. And then we had to visit my mom. She's 90, and in an assisted living facility for a few days. And bless my wife for coming with me and being so kind to my mom. And then drove up here. And while I was driving, I had plenty of opportunity to reflect on Judge Aikens' career. And I decided to speak about 4 things today, and I'll do it very briefly to keep Chief Judge Allman pleased with me. As I understand it, there's a 3 to 5 minute rule, so I'm going to try to stick with that. And I've already wasted a minute. The first thing I thought about while I was driving was I thought about the era that Judge Aikens grew up in. And we've seen that today in the presentation and the words of some of the speakers. And Judge Aikens was alive when the case Brown versus the Board of Education was decided. He was 14 years old when the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964, 15 when the Voting Rights Act was passed. So he, over much opposition, and he grew up in that era, in that environment. And despite that, Judge Aikens made up his mind at a young age that he wanted to be an attorney, just like Perry Mason. And he exceeded expectations wildly, because not only to become a attorney like Perry Mason, but then he became a judge. And to me, this demonstrates Judge Aikens' incredible drive and his determination to succeed when probably most of the odds were against him. So it says a lot about his character. The second thing I want to talk about was the first time I met Judge Aikens. I had just been hired as the trial court administrator for the Second Judicial Circuit, and I was a little shave tail as far as court administrators go. But Judge Aikens wanted to meet with me about some important administrative issue. And I remember that meeting, and I remember walking to that meeting very apprehensive. I was very intimidated. First thing was I was intimidated because I knew he was a full colonel in the Florida Army National Guard, and I had just been promoted all the way from captain to major. And of course, you have the colonels way up here. And generally, in a room full of colonels, the newly minted major is the one that makes the coffee. So one thought I had was maybe he's having me down to his office to make him some coffee. That was not the case. He wanted to meet about something extremely important. I forget what it was now, but he is a very adept administrator. He has great plans and ideas. And when I met with him, he had such an air of authority through his demeanor, his knowledge, his administrative competence. He knew so much that I had no idea that he had only been a county judge for 3 years. I thought he'd been on the bench for like 20 years. He just seemed to have that experience and that gravitas when I was talking to him. He just knew so much about everything. And most importantly, his authority didn't come from speaking loudly or making strident demands. Although I may have met some judges that could have done that. May or may not have met. Because it's probably safer. Anyway, Judge Aikens' authority came from his quiet professionalism, and that engendered respect. And lucky for me, our first meeting apparently went very well, and I know that because I survived for a further 21 years as the court administrator. And some of y'all that know me may say I've hung on barely by my fingertips, but they were just strong enough to have a career. The third thing I thought about while I was driving was, as I said before, and you've heard here from many people, Judge Aikens was a colonel, a full colonel in the Florida Army National Guard, and is federally recognized by the United States Army, and served during Desert Storms. And his military career and his judgeships demonstrate to me his dedication to serving his nation, serving his state, and serving his county. And I was thinking about his service, and his service is not to some sort of abstract territorial or to some government entity. His service was really, and based upon his oaths, his service was to the people of the United States, to the people of the state of Florida, and to the people of Leon County. And thinking about his service, it really was apparent to me that he truly cares about what he does on behalf of the people. The fourth and final point, and I'm sure many of you are very happy with that statement, but Judge Aikens' service to me was also about his compassion. So people that don't know him would think maybe this is a very strong man, and a man that does his duty and never demonstrates compassion, but he does all the time. He has compassion for the people who appear before him in open court. As I said before, he never raised his voice. He never yelled. He never demanded respect. He earned respect. He earned it through his judicial demeanor. He earned it by treating everyone fairly. When he was on the bench, he let people say what they thought they needed to say, and then he delivered justice with humility and compassion. This compassion is perfectly exemplified by his role in making first appearances a meaningful and legally correct endeavor. A huge project, his role in developing the drug court services and programs for people that needed that help. His role in dramatically improving mental health court and getting that off the ground and helping so many countless people in our community and their families in our community. And most importantly to me, his groundbreaking work with the Veterans Court, just helping my fellow veterans. And so for these reasons, I'm so pleased that I got to work with Judge Aikens in and for Leon County. And I'm really tickled to death that this very courthouse, this people's house, will be named for him for all time in a ceremony later today. And I want to thank Judge Aikens for inviting me here today to speak on his behalf. It was a huge pleasure and an honor. And I especially want to thank everyone involved in the decision to name this fine building for Judge Aikens, especially Commissioner Cummings, Commissioner Proctor, Judge Sherstrom, Chief Judge Allman, all the other people. I know it was a huge project to get something like this done, and I really, really appreciate it. It's one of the most meaningful things I've ever seen. And that concludes my remarks. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Colonel. We now call up Paula Wright, our Chief Deputy Court Administrator, and Elizabeth Garber, Mr. Slayton's successor as Trial Court Administrator.
Hello, everyone. Judge Aikens, the day is here. It's an honor to be here today to celebrate the retirement of you, sir, who has dedicated an incredible 27 years on the bench. I've actually worked with you for 25 years now, and it's been an honor. I'm Judge Aikens. As you step into this next chapter in your life, know that your impact on the legal community and everyone you've worked with will be felt for years to come. On behalf of all of us in court administration, thank you for your service, your guidance, and your leadership. We wish you all the best in your retirement. You've earned it. Now, come back as a senior judge. Don't forget us. I'm going to turn it over to our trial court administrator, Elizabeth Garber.
Okay. Thank you. It's truly a pleasure to follow all of the speakers before me who have eloquently honored Judge Aikens today. I have the special honor of presenting him with a proclamation that summarizes all the contributions that we've celebrated. This proclamation is more than just a document. It formally recognizes the legacy you leave behind and the example you have set for all of us. On behalf of the Second Judicial Circuit, I thank you for your decades of extraordinary service, and we wish you all the best in your next steps. So, ladies and gentlemen, please take a moment to give one final round of applause to Judge Aikens, a true leader, dedicated public servant, and an inspiration to us all.
All right, everyone, please be seated. Now call upon the Honorable Augustus D. Aikens, Jr. for his response. Judge Aikens.
The first thing I'm going to share with you is that I woke up Tuesday morning and I realized I didn't have a job. So I asked my wife, you know, I'm unemployed. And she said, no, you're not. You're retired. I said, what's the difference? She said, wait a month. If you don't get a check, we talk about it some more. Thank you, all you participants, for joining me in celebrating my retirement. My retirement after 49.5 years. 27 years as Leon County Judge, 20 years as an attorney for the state of Florida, and 3 years in private practice. I'm especially grateful for all participants on this program. Some of those persons traveled great distances like you, Stan, and also like you, Grant. I appreciate your presence. I'm equally grateful for those persons who live here in Leon County and joining with me today in graduating this event. Now, I requested these speakers not so they would come and embellish me, but there was a secret for the invitations. I invited them because they were significantly important in my progress as I journeyed along my way. Because it has always been my firm belief that God places us at critical points along our pathways to offer needed support, direction, love, and friendship to each other. I can firmly say that my life has been enriched with many. As our pathways crossed through this courthouse and this courtroom, which I was in on this last Monday, and many, many days before, through service as co-workers, classmates, neighbors, and at church. Our parents taught us that no one is successful by themselves, and I find that to be true. It lifts my spirits for the presence of my county judge colleagues who are present today. Blanca, Christy, Adrian, Beth, and also Regina. Well, maybe not Regina, but I will never forget how we served the people of Leon County to the best of our abilities. However, they will not tell you about the annual defeats at the hands of Team Aikens during our Christmas door decoration competition. Rather, they will tell you probably and complain about my flexible unwritten rules or my use of my hand-picked and highly paid judges. Mere technicalities. Seriously, it was a joy to work with them. We had such great times together as we worked, as also great times as we had time to spend with each other. And it's really, really enjoyed working with each of you. In fact, that is one of the things that I will miss most. We also had time to share stories with one another. And Judge Astronafi, if you don't mind, I will share one of the stories you told about the bus driver, the lady with the baby, and the double battery on the bus. A woman gets on the Caltrans bus with her baby. The bus driver said, that's the ugliest baby I've ever seen. The woman sits down fuming. She says to the man next to her, the driver just insulted me. He says, go up, then just tell him off. Go up and tell him off. I'll hold your monkey. Well, let me get back to the serious business. Thank you, fellow judges, for your presence this afternoon. It's been a privilege to work with you and wear the robes along with you as we serve the people of the state of Florida. I also thank my fellow Veteran Treatment Court team and particularly the participants as we dealt with their invisible wounds of war. I could not have planned a better ending day for my service than to be here in this courtroom on this past Monday, serving those veterans. I thank my Madison County classmates, teachers, friends for being here today. You've been my rock of support for so many years. My family is also present, as you've seen, in great numbers. Thank you for being here. You have encouraged me to keep going through difficult times of life, and we've had that difficult times of life. This is because of you, I know that I'm the I am blessed beyond measure. Thank you, Deborah, for the 27 years you've been here. And I'm grateful. To my children, words cannot express how proud I am of you. Remember, mosaics are created from broken pieces, yet they are still precious art, and so are you. You are responsible and loving parents of the greatest children God has created. Continue to love and care for those precious creations. Finally, LeGrand, I thank God for you and keeping me focused and reminding me that at the end of the day, what really matters is that our loved ones are well, that we've done our best, and that we should be thankful for all that we have. When acknowledging my retirement, people tend to ask me two questions. How do you feel about retirement, and what are you going to do after retirement? Well, as to the second question, what I'm going to do, I can honestly answer, I don't know. All I know is on a list kept secretly by my wife. And she's been developing that list over 50 years. I only know that it's long and involves two things: money and my labor. As to the first question, how do I feel about retirement? It's been a journey that only can be described as a labor of love. I know that I am the most blessed man in the entire world. When Governor Childs appointed me to fill seat 4, I thank God for the opportunity to fulfill a childhood dream. When I started my daily duties, I prayed for guidance in dealing with the affairs of God's people. Now that I have reached that end, I thank God for only He made it all possible. In summary, I thank God for all that you've seen and heard today. As I reflect on the farmer's son of nearly 50 years of service, the conclusions are clear. First, it was God's timing, not mine. I survived many impatient moments. It was God's will, not mine. I regretted losing my first election and concluded that it was my last and only opportunity to serve as a judge. As you can see, that is not so. It was God's plan, not mine, to be here today celebrating with all of you. Today belongs to God's plan, not mine. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Gus. Thank you. Please be seated. So I want to thank everyone for coming. I hope all of you will be able to join us in front of the courthouse for the dedication ceremony and the unveiling of the renaming. I'm going to ask the judges to go back out the door we came in. I'm going to ask everyone else to exit the building on the south end. If you're able to take the staircase down, please take the stairs. We'll get more people out quicker. And if you're not able to use the stairs, the people with the blue roses, blue ribbons, and obviously our bailiffs will direct you to the elevators. And if you get lost, just follow the crowd. See you downstairs. Thank you, folks.